I wish you were still here. Instead, I'm stuck here with a tear, wishing I could call you one more time, dying when you should be in your prime. Sometimes I knew not what to do. I would call you for a clue, a call to you I cannot make. The day you died, my heart did break. People ask me how I'm doing, sitting here, my mind is stewing, overthinking my whole life, feeling a pain that stings like a knife. I try to be strong for the one still here, but sometimes I go to bed with fear that I might be the next to go. In this life, you never know. You think you're healthy, think you're strong, but many learn they are wrong. Every day we must be ready. Each day we must be steady. We learn that life is just a flicker. That life might end a whole lot quicker. My wish for me, my wish for all, say I love you before death's call.
Beautiful, Alan.
Oh, Alan, that was really
Very nice.
Woo!
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yes.
My next poem is called If I Could See You. If I could see you, would you be walking or swimming in an ocean or flying across the sky? Would I see you swimming like an all-knowing dolphin, reciting the philosophy of now and then and telling me the reality of our world? Would you be a peacock flying over a rainbow, dropping a tear of peace, blurring the colors of our existence? If you were flying on a bad day, would I see you sputter or fly a little lower so I could give you a hug? On a good day, could gravity even hold you? Or would you be found in the stratosphere, wrapped in between the layers of hot and cold, sleeping on an aromatic cloud of love?
Woo! Ooh, that's nice.
Wow, that's great.
Great,
Beautiful.
thank you.
And now I'm going to tell you one of my tall tales. It all started off with a toothache. It was the kind of toothache where it felt like someone was constantly hammering a nail right into my tooth. I called up the dentist, but they weren't able to schedule me until Friday. And it was until Monday, and it was currently Friday. And so I had to endure the weekend. Now, when I say I had to endure the weekend, well, everybody else had to endure the weekend too, because I had heard that chewing on garlic relieved the pain of a toothache, and so they had to endure my bad breath. Well, Monday came along, and I went out to my car and I reached into my pocket to get my keys, but my keys weren't there. I had accidentally locked them in my house. I walked all the way around the house and I realized the only way in was through the window air conditioner unit. And so I picked it up and I pulled it out and I walked right through my window. I found my keys on my couch and I went out and I started up my car and it started right up. And I started off down the highway. You see, my dentist is a good 35 miles away. And when I was about 20 miles into my trip, I saw flashing lights behind me. I pulled over and a 6'6" highway patrolman with a long beard came to the window. He looked at me and said, "Do you realize why I pulled you over?" I said, "No, I have no idea." "You don't realize that you've been leaking a fluid all over my highway?" I didn't know, and I didn't even know it was his highway.
Ba-da-bum.
Man, he said, "You'd best step out of the car and we'd better figure this all out." And so I got out of the car and we walked around to the back and he knelt down and he got a great big whiff of gasoline. "This is a major environmental offense," he said. "We've got to walk back to where it all started." And we walked the 2 miles back to where the trail started. And right on the highway where it started, there was a bullet. And he tossed it at me. I flinched back thinking it might be hot, but it was freezing cold. I couldn't figure it out. And that's when the officer said, "Ah, yes, I've seen this before. A hunter will be out in the woods hunting in the middle of the winter, and it'll be so cold out that when he shoots, the bullet will freeze in midair." And today, in the first day of spring, it just happened to be warm enough and that bullet unthawed and it continued at its previous velocity right at your gas tank. Well, I wasn't sure if that was what had happened, but I was not one to argue with the highway patrolman. And that officer, being mighty proud of himself, got out a cigar and he started to light it. But his beard had gotten into the gasoline and his beard started on fire. And he brushed it off and he dropped it right onto the highway, right onto that trail of gasoline. And a fire shot down the highway and the officer went running right into the line of fire. I jumped to the side because I didn't want to get burned and started running beside him. And when we were almost up to our cars, I yelled, "Stop, it's going to blow." And we both stopped and we watched as my car caught on fire and exploded and parts of it landed in the neighboring field, starting it on fire. And his car, of course, it's right behind mine and it started on fire also. And parts of it exploded and landed in the other field on the other side of the highway, starting it on fire too. Now you might think that the worst part of this story has happened, but it hasn't. You see, there was a car coming towards us. Now it was able to avoid the debris, but then out of nowhere hopped a ninja hopping frog right onto the hood of that car, and it launched itself right at my forehead, knocking me backwards, and my head hit on the highway. My tooth dislodged and rolled back into my throat, making me both unconscious and unable to breathe. And the officer looked back and said, "I think we're going to need an ambulance also." He came back and started doing CPR on me. And just when he came up to breathe in my mouth, my tooth dislodged and shot into his throat and lodged in his throat, and he collapsed on top of me.
Oh, goodness.
And that's when the local paparazzi showed up. You know, the people that are always listening in on their scanner radios to be the first one to the scene to report their version of the story on Snapchat, Facebook, and Chitter. Well, I may have just invented a new social network there. Well, I don't even want to know their version of the story. But anyhow, the police arrived and shut down the highway. The ambulance came and took the officer and myself away to the hospital to be checked out, and the fire trucks came and put out the fires. Now, you might think that the worst part of this story has happened, but once again, it is not. You see, my insurance company has claimed this is all my fault. All $500,000 worth of damages from the vehicles, the highway, and the fields. However, I have been able to hire a lawyer to prove that this is not my fault or the deer hunter's fault, but the ammunition manufacturer's fault for making a bullet that could freeze in midair.
Bravo.
Oh, Alan.